Good morning.
Good morning.
It is January 9th, 2022, a brand new year. And our topic today is the power of your words. And so I think it's very appropriate as we're thinking about this new year, what we want to manifest, what we want to participate in this year. And so it's a wonderful time for really looking at how do we create with the power of our minds, our thinking, our words? Why does it work that way? And what we can do to optimize our life. And I'm going to start with the prayer that Ernest Holmes wrote and a writing. It's a little bit of a writing, I'll tell you, when it becomes an affirmative prayer. But it's entitled From Prayer to Performance. And that's what we're talking about this morning. And the quote, is a Psalms quote that I'm going to skip. At any rate, to be effective, prayer must be affirmative, but it is not enough merely to affirm the presence of God. We must add to this realization the thought that divine intelligence is acting in and through us now. Prayer is not a wishful or wistful longing, nor is it an escape from objective reality. To become lost in our prayers might give us an unconscious desire to escape the activities of life. Therefore, we affirm that divine intelligence not only knows what to do, but also impels us to act on its knowing. So this is the affirmative prayer, and you're welcome to repeat this on your own. As I say it, I hand my life and affairs over to divine intelligence, to the power that knows how to do everything. I do this in the complete conviction that I receive only good into my experience. I know there is nothing in me that can doubt either the divine goodness or the operation of its law in my affairs. I believe that everything necessary to the fulfillment of every good desire is now in full operation, that all the circumstances in my life are tending to bring it about. If there is anything I ought to do about this, I accept the action and know that I receive guidance and am impelled to act intelligently. Therefore, I have a complete sense of ease and assurance. I look forward joyfully as I anticipate the good that is to come into my life. I believe that all who are now praying with me will receive the answer to their desires from the same source. My faith goes out to them even as their faith reaches back to me, the circle of life.
Mm-hmm.
For I believe that out of the great good in which we live, there will surely come to all of us an answer to our particular need. And so it is.
In keeping with that, I wrote a piece that we're going to be using a piece of music later today. It's going to be from the Lion King, The Circle of Life. And for those of you that stay with us, you can watch that on, or you can tune into it on YouTube if you want to and watch it on your own. But what I wrote is the circle of life is our dialogue with life's source, outpicturing with every word and thought spoken or imagined. And that really is what I want to talk about today is that our words embody or are vehicles for energy that becomes manifest in our world. And so if you look at your world, if you looked at your conversation about the world, it is an outpicturing of the way you think. And without realizing it, and I think this is the most important piece of it, without realizing it, there is an ongoing internal dialogue that's running all of the time. And why that's so critical is because a lot of people think that if they can't hear it, it's not there. And if it's
They can't hear it with their ears.
And if it's a negative dialogue, if it's an anticipatory anticipation of what's wrong or what's going to go wrong, it's a dialogue of fear and worry in the background, then everything that outpictures is going to be a reflection of that at some level. And so I'm taken back to when I was going into the Army in the very, very beginning, and I was sitting in Radio City Music Hall before I went to Fort Dix in New Jersey. I stopped in New York, went to Radio City Music Hall, and I thought to myself, I want to have one good experience before I go in the Army. So I'm sitting in Radio City Music Hall, which is an extraordinary place, and I'm watching the Rockettes, and I'm listening to the organ, and I'm listening to all of the excitement that's going on, and I'm right there experiencing it. And then in a heartbeat, I'm wondering and worrying about what it's going to be like when I go into camp to shave my head, which, by the way, is no longer a big deal. And I'm going
Matter
to,
of fact, you do it
right, yeah,
regularly.
and I'm going to be a soldier. But what was interesting to me was that in the moment of joy and excitement, in a heartbeat, I was back in fear and worry and anticipation of the worst that could happen. Now, why that's an important story to share is that today I look back and I have two things I can look back at. I can look back at the fear and the worry that I had, and I can look back at the Rockettes and the movie that was being shown, which was Sand Pebbles with Steve McQueen. And I can think of all the excitement and the positiveness that was going on in that movie and in that experience, or I can think of all the worry and the fear that I have. And where I'm coming to with this is that we need to occupy our mind with the quality of conversation that we want to see outpictured. And if we don't occupy our mind with that, our mind will be occupied. And it will be occupied with advertisements for pain, suffering, and tumultuous times. Without meaning to, we're running lots of ads for what's wrong in the background of our mind.
And it's going all the time, and we're listening to it with
yeah.
our inner ear.
Right. So, we're being told this is how many new cases of COVID there are. This is how close it is to your neighborhood. This is how full the hospital is. This is what we expect next. It may get better, but we don't know. It's really all getting worse. And now for some better news, we're going to switch to an advertisement about heart medicine for those people who are dying from AFib. And I think, wow, yeah. And if that isn't bad, then your skin is terrible. So, so we get through all of this, and I think we don't realize the impact of the worried kind of thinking that goes on in the background all the time. So you can't not be thinking. And if you're going to be thinking, and you are, then see if you can move into the direction of positive affirmation.
Well, exactly. So we're talking about two things. We're talking about self-talk, and we're
Yeah.
also talking about prayer. And
which is a kind of self-talk.
exactly. And why do we do an affirmative prayer? Well, it all stems from in the Bible. There's a couple of places where Jesus is attributed to saying, when you pray, pray believing you receive, and you shall receive. So that's what we're doing. We're praying, already accepting the thing we desire. It's very simple. In other words, what we believe is that if you pray saying, "Oh dear God, please bring me this. I'm sick, I'm miserable, I'm whatever, and those words are going from your lips to God's ears, if God has ears, but from the listening of the consciousness. But so when you do those pleading prayers, you're actually telling the universe what you don't have. And you likely will get more of what you don't want. So we don't do begging, pleading prayers. We pray like Jesus told us to pray, which is to pray, when you pray believing you receive, you shall receive. So we stated in the positive, in the present tense, as if we've already received it, because it is from your lips to God's ears. The universe is always listening, and it's a creative intelligence that is always creating for you what's in your consciousness. I'm doing this because it's like a field of energy all around you that attracts to you basically what you believe about yourself and your situation. So if you want to change your beliefs about your situation from negative to positive, you need to do that by stating the affirmative, stating it as if you already have it, and giving thanks for that.
Well, and the same thing would be true if you were in the hospital and you had a critical issue going on, and they gave you an injection to deal with that critical issue. When they give you the injection, they have given you the solution, but there's no evidence of it at that moment in time. And so what you say is, I know I've gotten the injection that I need for the outcome that I require, and everyone takes a sigh of relief, except it doesn't seem to be that way because it doesn't look that way. Mm-hmm. And so we can't allow ourselves to work simply by appearances. We have to work from knowledge that we have, that what we put into consciousness is medicine that outpictures as healing. and it outpitches us healing at the pace that it can be shown, given the conditions that it's working with. It doesn't have to be believed in every moment of the time.
Exactly. And you choose affirmations are positive statements of you saying I am, and followed by something positive in the present. So for example, let's say you're very sick right now and in pain. It's sometimes when you say I am perfect, healthy, whole, and complete right here and right now, there can be a part of you that says, well, that's a big fat lie.
Yeah, bullshit.
Don't say those words.
That's what my unconscious says. It's not on TV. It's not on Zoom. It just says
It is on TV.
No,
It
no,
is
no.
on Zoom.
My
Oh.
unconscious doesn't, and it doesn't. It's even worse words than that sometimes. Like
Our grandkids
who
correct us.
who
when
are
he
you
does that.
kidding? You got to be kidding me. I'm not better.
Right.
And or there's the other one that we often do is I am whole, perfect, and complete. I sure hope that's true. And
Both of those negate it.
the addendum is like an eraser.
Yes. So what we're saying is that we know that doesn't match the appearance of things, but the appearance is just the appearance. And isn't it always changing? Every
Yeah.
electron, every molecule in your body is always changing. And so you can direct it for changing to the positive, to more healthful, to more powerful, to more peaceful. And you might even choose one that you can actually believe,
Yeah.
like every day in every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger,
Better
healthier
better,
and healthier.
wealthier.
Every day in every way. And so you affirm that. So instead of worrying about a particular illness or pain or part of your body that you'd like to see better, you affirm that it is getting that way. And that's easier for some people to hear and believe than I'm already perfect and
Right.
complete and whole. So we say that these are necessary to do in the affirmative to be the most effective. And I've had powerful results in my life. Now we call this a treatment. Ernest Holmes, our founder, called it a treatment, and before us, other people were calling it treatments. And what that means is much like if you went to an acupuncturist, you would get a treatment. That's an energy treatment, and using or having someone else do for you a positive prayer like this is a treatment. It's a treatment to your mind. It
Mhm.
treats your mind to a higher idea, a higher ideal. And we can all use those. So it is called sometimes a spiritual mind treatment. And it's a prayer, that's a positive prayer, but we call it a treatment because
We're treating the
it
mind.
often can create miraculous results in
Right.
one treatment, in one
Right.
session. And sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it takes years. And so you just continue doing it until you get your manifestation. And there's a lot of acceptance that comes in of accepting what is as what is best for you too. So you sort of have to be of two minds. You want to accept what is without complaining or longing for. See, longing for something you want is another way of telling the universe you don't have it.
Right. In the distance you are from it. The degree of your longing often measures how far away you are from it and how impossible it is.
Exactly.
And the greater the longing, the greater the length, unfortunately, of the distance you need to travel to get what you want, because you have to overcome the idea. And same thing would be true if you get in the car and you're going to drive from here to California. Every mile of the way is part of the journey. You don't.
Are we there yet?
Yeah. Well, that's only when you're 4 years old. And I gotta go to the bathroom. I can't talk about that on Zoom, but yeah, I mean, all of the reasons that you want to have it, you want to be there, but if you can't visualize being there, you can't get there. You have to visualize it, put it in the GPS, travel the distance, but all the while you're traveling the distance, you have in mind that you're already there.
Exactly. So what you learn to do when you live this life, and it's a lifelong practice. I don't know anybody who's ever gotten to a place where they says, well, I've got everything down. I really know how to do this thing. Everybody is always practicing it. And so, excuse me, you learn to monitor your thoughts. As Bob said, you're always thinking. You're always listening to your thoughts. So you learn to monitor it and say, what is the tone of my thinking? What have I usually been saying to myself? Because sometimes you'd be shocked at how much it's about doom and gloom and worry and And what's wrong?
Your mood in some ways is kind of a soundtrack of the dialogue. And
Right.
if you check in with your mood and say, what kind of a mood am I in? You could probably figure out from that what the dialogue is that's just behind the surface. And so then,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
if your mood is not positive, and a couple of things happen to me when my mood is not positive and I begin positive affirmations, is I get irritated because I'm not done being worried, upset, or miserable, or I have to change gears. And that change tells you how much you have invested. Very often, how difficult it is to make that change tells you how much you've invested in your worry and in your
And your
upset
pout.
and in your pouting. Yeah. When you're a baby, you pout for no particular reason. You pout because you're angry and upset, and you can't explain it, but you just are. When you're an adult, you do the exact same thing, but you got a great story to go with it, to justify it, to make it. You'd be upset too if this happened to you. But the bottom line is the impact of it is the same.
Now, you told me a realization you had that when we get so upset that things are not the way we
Oh
want,
yeah,
and we
yeah.
do a screaming pout.
Well, we learn this as babies. What happens when we're a baby, and we can't identify what we want to anybody outside because they don't know. So we scream and holler. We scream really, really loud, and we make the world shake until somebody comes in and says, "My God, we got to fix this," or sell the baby.
Pick this
Yeah,
baby up
you
or
do
change
something.
it or
So
something.
immediately there's a state change for the baby as a response to the thing that the baby is crying about. If nothing else, the baby gets held. What you learn as a baby is if you're in pain and you scream loud enough, God, which is by that way happens usually to be mom, will come in and lift you up and fix things, or at least give you some distance from your pain. I really believe that adult tantrums are our letting God know that we are in pain and it's time for him to lift us up out of the crib and hold us as tight as possible and make whatever's wrong with us go away. And that it doesn't work is because we're not infants anymore, and God is not picking us up the way we think God would. But I really think that the core of a tantrum is, I am simply protesting that this is not right and you better make it right.
Right. And unfortunately, as adults, it can often just perpetuate it, as you said. So we have to get out of our pout. We have to get out of our tantrum and learn to use affirmations to find the good and seek the good that we want. I wanted to share with you from the Science of
Oh, this is
Mind
good. Yeah.
textbook. It's going to start with a very long prayer that Ernest Holmes is using here as an example of how to do this prayer. And it's all inclusive, I've got to tell you.
It's in the textbook.
It's from the
Science of
textbook,
Mind,
the
my
Science of
textbook,
Mind, on
page 56.
how to use it, meaning how to use this teaching, this principle. I am a center in the divine mind, a point of God-conscious life, truth, and action. My affairs are divinely guided and guarded into right action, into correct results. Everything I do, say, or think is stimulated by the truth. There is power in this word that I speak because it is of the truth, and it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and my affairs. All belief in wrong action is dispelled and made negative. Right action alone has the power, and the right action is power, and the power is God, the living Spirit Almighty. This Spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time, to say the right word at the right time, to follow the right course at all times. All suggestion of age, poverty, limitation, or unhappiness is uprooted from my mind and cannot gain entrance to my thought. I am happy, well, and filled with perfect life. I live in the spirit of truth and am conscious that the spirit of truth lives in me. My word is the law unto its own manifestation and will bring to me or cause me to be brought to this fulfillment. There is no unbelief, no doubt, no uncertainty. I know, and I know that I know Let every thought of doubt vanish from my mind, that I may know the truth, and the truth may make me free. And so it is. So that sort of covers all the bases. And I love the textbook because it's full of those things. And I love the 365 because it's full of those things. Because as much as I know them, I still need to be reminded, as do we all. And as Bob was talking about how this constant conversation is going on, that we're always listening to in our minds, that's why when we learn to meditate, we have to try to stop that or stop listening to it. Did you want to talk about that, Bob? About the
Well, one of the
meditation and
things that
what
we
do?
often do is we use a mantra, which is an energetic expression of what we want to have in our lives that can defy or overcome or supersede the words that we're using in the background very often. So a mantra recognizes the inability we often have to be silent. And so the mantra gives us something we can move into that can allow us to engage in a kind of silence that's bigger than the words. But until we can do that, we're actually stuck on whatever the dialogue is that's going on, and there is one in the background always.
Or it can be a breathing technique where
Yeah.
you breathe and count. All of that is designed for you to give your mind something to do other than its constant worrying. And the mantra doesn't have to, we were given, not Bob and I personally, but in the United States, some of the Indian gurus came over and gave people
I
mantras
was
and
given one.
transcendental meditation. They're given a mantra, and it's just a Sanskrit phrase, and you can make up your own. You can make up your own. That one book I read called the Relaxation Response by, I think his name was Harold Benson. They studied the effectiveness of meditation. They said you can just say one over and over, because you're just talking about your oneness with God, with life, and it can get you going in that direction. When I meditate to feel the peace of God in my life. And if I can stop my mind, I can get there. And I think that's very healing. It's very healing to feel the presence of God in our lives, and knowing that's what we really are, extensions of that, not all of it by any means, but that it lives and moves and has its being in us as well. So I think we're about ready to wind up this brief explanation of this kind of affirmative prayer, and explain why we do it and what it does for us. And I know this is something we do for each other and those attending. So you're always welcome to ask for help with that area.
Well, think of the mind as a garden, and think of all thought as seed. And you're always planting something, and something's always growing in the garden. Now, the question is, how will you tend the garden? Will you tend the flowers, or will you tend the weeds? And very often we tend the weeds without meaning to, and we really want to tend the flowers. And the flowers that blossom that we've planted bring us great joy. The weeds that we've planted often interfere with and get in the way of the things we want to see more of. So what I would suggest you do this week is ask yourself, how many weed thoughts am I having today? And how many flowers am I able to blossom? How's my garden doing?
Exactly. And I don't think I even gave the title of this talk, which is The Power of Your Words. So you can see we believe that there is that there's power in your words. And I would like to end with 2 affirmations that were shared to us by one of our members, Carol Lynn Grant. And this is spirit coming right through her, and she shared it with us in another group that I attend. So it's basically one idea. I am about to walk into the most abundant, balanced, wealthy, and successful period of my life. That feels really good to me. I like that, the sound of it.
Dress for success.
I naturally attract good fortune, and I am wealthy in more ways than one. I give myself permission to prosper, and I have the power to build the life that I desire. And so it is.
Imagine the extent to which you take that in, that it's up, that it's
Ooh,
put
it's
back out.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting to say, to believe, to use. And so I share it with you, and I'll type it in if Carol gives me permission under the posting of this in Facebook. So with that,
We're going to do the offering.
Yes, we are. Uh, yes, we are. And so we're going to share with you now uh, a way that many people support our ministry, and we give them a great appreciation and thanks for doing so. And simply by going to our website. And that website is CSL, let's see where it covered that, cslpalmbeaches.org. We are the Center for Spiritual Living of the Palm Beaches. So it's cslpalmbeaches.org. And right under that is ways to donate. And here you can use PayPal account, a credit card, Easy Tithe, or mailing a check. So we appreciate all your support. And if this has been helpful for you, we know that as you support it with your finances, it also supports you and the effectiveness of the teaching in your life. Because in order to become prosperous, we have to give. If we're not giving to sources of our inspiration, we are clogging up our own supply line. So if you are looking for a way to unclog your supply line, start giving. You have to start, it's like priming a pump. You have to start it flowing. So give to the sources of your inspiration, wherever that may be.
Yeah, wherever that may be.
Okay, and that might even be Carol Lynn Grant. Okay, so I'm going to end that now and stop the recording.
Yes.